Gears of War, one of the most iconic Xbox franchises, is now officially coming to PS5. But here's the real shocker. If Microsoft is willing to let their crown jewels go multi-platform, there's a very, very real chance that Switch 2 is next. And if that happens, we could see games that never felt possible on a Nintendo system finally become reality. So good morning, Mario, and good morning, Switch fans. The freaking Switch 2 library just grew so much more dreamlike. Earlier today, Microsoft announced that they're bringing a brand new Gears of War remaster August 26th to the Xbox and the PC and the PlayStation 5 for $40, which is a great price, and it has crossplay and it has cross progression. You know what other console is going to be out by August 26th? A little small portable known as the Switch 2. I think this is absolutely setting the groundwork for Gears of War to be on Nintendo Switch 2, which is freaking crazy, and this brings so much validity to the rumors we heard earlier this year about Halo coming to Switch 2, about Forza Horizon coming to Switch 2. If Microsoft wants to put these games on PS5, they're happy to put them on Switch. They've already given Nintendo Ori, Cuphead, Grounded, Pentiment. They're clearly ready to move their biggest franchises to Switch 2, and the Switch 2 has the power for it. Like, the Switch 2 can run these games happily. It's got DLSS to make performance per, and it can even take this new remaster called Gears of War Reloaded for a ride. And I think it can take it for a ride that will be plenty adequate. Crossplay, cross progression would be super sick, allowing you to double dip if you wanted into the Game Pass version and a portable Switch 2 version. And frankly, I like this $40 price. I think that's a great price for a remaster game. And honestly, I wish Nintendo might take a hint, and Sony as well, and pretty much everybody else. A remaster doesn't need to be an excuse to sell the game for full value, and I think Microsoft has made great plays lately by bringing Oblivion Remastered for $50 and now Gears of War Reloaded for $40. Those are palatable prices for any game, and especially for a game that is dolled up in beautiful brand new graphics, but maybe is a game that was already developed long ago. I think this is so smart of them. There's a lot of ways that this generation is already wild, and many of them can often be quite negative. I'm here for a wild way that's actually really exciting. And that wild way is exclusives just not being exclusive anymore, except the Nintendo ones. They ain't letting go of those, but Microsoft, Sony, they're getting a little bit more loose and lax with things. And all this does is make the Switch 2 stronger. All this does is make the games library for our console even more exciting. It is crazy that pretty soon the Switch 2 is going to have access to more games than just about everybody else, than any other console. The PC, they've got insane numbers, but console-wise, PS5, Xbox, Switch 2, the Switch 2 possibilities are the biggest. Let your imagination run wild. A dream game that you thought Nintendo couldn't possibly get, it's now totally possible and maybe even likely. And look, if you're a longtime Nintendo fan like me, this is huge. This is massive because there was a time where Nintendo they were by themselves. It was like a Nintendo game or nothing. If it's not us making it, then who is it? But now Nintendo has shifted the game tremendously. They put themselves in a position where they can get any game. And now with Microsoft letting the handcuffs off their exclusives, we're gaining access to franchises we've never had access to. And that means Metroid paired with Marcus Phoenix. That means Zelda paired with Master Chief. That means Mario paired with Forza. And this is just a huge win for Nintendo players. And it's a sign that the Switch 2 is going to be the most diverse and dynamic Nintendo system ever made. I firmly believe that when Microsoft decides to put their former exclusives onto Switch 2, because look, like they are changing their strategy totally. And this has been in motion for probably a year and a half to 2 years now, where Microsoft is not valuing exclusives, they're valuing exposure, they're valuing users, they want to build up Game Pass, and they're kind of hitting their stride with games like Expedition 33 and South of Midnight really becoming darlings that are doing very good and pushing forward this idea that Game Pass can have more than just Call of Duty and the next Elder Scrolls. So they are moving their system and moving their IP to be worldly, right? Which is a big benefit for Nintendo fans, because then this system, like, what tops it? What tops a system where you can play Mario and you can play Gears of War and you can play Elden Ring? Nothing else can do that, because Nintendo won't take this strategy. Microsoft and Nintendo, I think, can be best of friends and have been good friends because their strategies are so polar opposite. Nintendo is so heavily invested in their IP and characters, and Microsoft is willing to share all of their IP and characters, making their relationship one that can coexist and one that can work pretty well. And I'm telling you, if Gears is going to PS5, it's coming to Switch 2. Tom Warren talked earlier this year about how it might not be the full Master Chief Collection, but rather select games from the Halo Master Chief Collection coming to Switch 2. Forza is already coming to PS5, so I think both of those, based on the rumors and based on what we're hearing today, like, those should be, I don't want to say inevitable, but highly likely. If we're talking about what games could actually come from Microsoft to Switch 2, like, let's get down and dirty granular, it's like, okay, Hi-Fi Rush should definitely be ported to Switch 2. Gears of War Reloaded should definitely be ported to Switch 2. Halo, whether it's the full Master Chief Collection or some of the Master Chief Collection, should be ported to Switch 2. Forza Horizon 5 should be ported to Switch 2. Now, what's interesting here is this is just Gears of War 1, and to get a little bit more into the details there, Gears of War 2 and 3 have not seen remasters. There was Gears of War Ultimate Edition, which provided a first pass over Gears of War once again, and now there's Gears of War Reloaded providing yet another. So this tells me that Microsoft's strategy here is not to move the latest and greatest from these franchises, but rather to seed interest in these franchises by moving remasters and by moving earlier titles. I think honestly that's a really smart move. Would I love to have the latest? Would it be great to get Gears of War E-Day and Halo Infinite on Switch 2? Absolutely. And I think, like, there is a world, a future, a road where that does become reality. And that road is, like, if Microsoft sees so much success with these games on other platforms, but it's not translating into console sales. Microsoft probably is holding out hope that if they do spread their games and spread their Game Pass, then maybe you'll want to buy an Xbox because it just seems like such great value and such a great place to be. And then you could play the new Perfect Dark exclusively on Xbox, the new Gears of War E-Day exclusively on Xbox, the new Halo whatever exclusively on Xbox. But if they're not seeing that conversion, if players are preferring to buy a Switch 2 because Switch 2, is going to be cheaper than an Xbox Series X, if they're preferring to buy a Switch 2, Microsoft may not get that conversion that potentially they're hoping for. And in that case, there is a world where, okay, they've got to shift course even more and move even more in the multi-platform direction, and eventually not just bring remasters, but bring bold, great new titles as well. I'm pretty convinced that indie games in the style of Ori and Cuphead, and smaller titles in the style of Pentiment and Grounded, and remasters in the style of Gears of War and Halo are going to be universal. They've really just established that these characters are no longer off limits, and that they will be merging cross-play and cross-platform, not just lending out, but really just merging the ecosystems of these consoles and these characters to have Marcus Phoenix be wherever you want him to be. And Nintendo will definitely be a place for that, I believe, later this year. I feel like this is something Nintendo will proudly announce at a Direct, even if we feel it's coming, even if we hear tons of rumors. Like that moment for them where they can say Gears of War Reloaded on your Switch 2, portable, running great, and home docked, running great. That's a big moment. Like, that's a big moment. And if you kind of dream up with other games, it's like, could they bring Viva Pinata? Are there any other Microsoft games from yesteryear or even recent year that you want to see them move over? I mean, Doom the Dark Ages, sign me up for that. That game's out next week, and I could be playing it on Switch 2 in a month if they're willing to make that move. Oblivion Remastered is another one that I think absolutely should be pushed over to Switch 2. If they're going to be bringing these things to PS5, what is your reason for them not putting it on Switch 2? Do you have one? I don't think there is one. Like, is there any argument for why this goes to PS5 and not Switch 2? Oh, it can run it better, but the Switch 2 has proven, based on games we've already seen and based on what we've heard from developers, that it's more than capable. And that's where I thank the great Nintendo decision makers for prioritizing hardware finally, for prioritizing power finally. If Nintendo had skimped on this, if they had gone 1 or 2 tiers lower, if they had just shaved off a little more of their cost, we might not be in this situation. But thankfully, Nintendo put forth a system and put forth a plan where they were going to build something that could play just about everything. And if we're getting Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws, we're getting Gears of War Reloaded and Oblivion Remastered, which is beautiful, which is brilliant. So I thank Nintendo for making the choice to double down on the Switch rather than reinvent the wheel. I think Nintendo so strongly and so amazingly just did what they were supposed to do, and it's the most beautiful thing as a part of this new generation is that Nintendo just made a better console greater. The Switch is already Nintendo's better console, and now they're just improving upon it, which shows, I think, growth and intelligence, and of course, they want to make money, and based on the pre-orders, they're making a ton of money. So would you play Gears of War or Halo on your Switch 2? And what other Microsoft Xbox games do you think should come to the platform? August 26th, make it day and date, baby. The Switch 2 is already going to be out. I want to play this one on the Switch 2, not the Xbox, not the PlayStation. A beautiful day for Nintendo fans. So drop your dream list of games you want on this system in the comments down below. And until next time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there. Love you lots. SwitchForce out.